Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I was in the middle of a 30-page fraud audit when my phone buzzed with the name Uncle Gerald. I let it go once, twice. Then I grabbed it before the third ring could finish. "Hey," I said. "You coming for Christmas at your folks?" he asked. No hello, no small talk. That was Gerald, direct as hell. I stared at the spreadsheet in front of me, the cursor blinking like it knew the answer. "You'll be there?" "Yeah. I wouldn't call if I didn't think it mattered." He never wasted words. Never pushed either. Just let the silence work. I rubbed my temple, leaned back in my chair, and said, "I'll think about it." He grunted. "Either way, stop by this week." Got a pallet stacked dumb again. Can't trust kids to line 2 boxes straight. I smiled a little. That was our language. Pallets, logistics, busted coffee machines in the break room. My name's Wade. 29 now. I'm a risk analyst at a credit union uptown in Charlotte. Rent a 1-bedroom off South End, jog in the mornings, grill chicken Sunday nights, keep receipts in folders, no wife, no kids, never found the time or the peace of mind. I figured maybe a condo by next fall if rates didn't spike again and work kept pace. Families in Gastonia. We haven't been right in years. Not since the night I packed a duffel and walked out with 3 shirts and a pair of steel toes. We'll get to that. Before we start, tell us which city or country you're listening from. Let's see which corners of the world we've gathered from today. Thanks. And now the story. 2 days after that call, I swung by Gerald's place after work. Same old warehouse off Wilkinson, peeling beige paint, dented loading dock, smell of dust and coffee. He had 2 mugs poured already. One for him in a chipped Panthers mug, the other in a travel thermos he kept forgetting to give back to me. We talked shop for 5 minutes. Pallets, invoices, some kid he'd just fired for vaping inside a trailer, then life for 20. He finally leaned back and said, "Kid, time's short. You don't get points for holding a grudge so tight you forget your own birthday." I looked down at the thermos. Thought about the call I never returned on my last birthday. Thought about Courtney posting some filtered shot of cupcakes like it made up for what she did. I didn't say anything. Gerald didn't fill the space. He let it hang until I said, "I'll go. If you're there the whole time." "I'll sit in the corner and eat ham," he said. "You do what you need to do." I nodded, but that old tightness in my chest didn't let up. I could still see the envelope from UNC Charlotte, still hear Mom's voice calling it not the right time when I asked about Grandma's CD. I remembered Dad looking past me like I was asking to buy a jet ski, not pay for college. Driving back on I-85, headlights kept flaring off the side mirror, hitting my face like flashbulbs. I rolled down the window, let the wind slap some of it away. It didn't make the past smaller. But knowing Gerald had wheels on the ground, knowing I wouldn't be walking into that house alone, it gave me just enough room to breathe. And maybe, for once, that was enough to get through the door. Senior year, I came home with a letter folded tight in my back pocket. It was from UNC Charlotte. I'd gotten into their risk management program with a partial grant. Not full ride, but solid. Enough to give me a way out. I'd done the math 3 times and figured with that grant and Grandma's CD, I could swing it without burying myself in debt. I handed the letter to Mom while she stirred a pot of chili like nothing mattered outside of whatever seasoning she was tossing in. She glanced at it, nodded once, then set it on the counter like a flyer someone stuck under the windshield. Dad barely looked up from the logbook he was scribbling in. My sister, Courtney, sat at the kitchen table on her phone, talking about lash glue and booking her first chair at a salon in town. I waited for someone to say something, anything. A congrats. A "we're proud of you." All I got was steam from the chili and Courtney asking if anyone had seen her nail tips. I said, "I got in." UNC Charlotte. Risk program. It's real. Mom wiped her hands on a dish towel. "That's good, Wade. That's real good." I watched her for a second. "So, I guess now's the time to talk about Grandma's CD." The room stiffened, just a little. Dad cleared his throat and stared harder at the logbook. Courtney didn't even pause her scroll. You remember what it said? I pushed. She wrote it out. For Wade's education. Not for gas money, not to split, not vague. It was $8,000. I saw the statement. We all did. Mom kept her eyes on the chili, gave it a quick stir like that could distract both of us. Things change, she said. Courtney's getting her salon off the ground, and we needed to move fast. The CD helped with the build-out, the deposits. It's for the good of the family, Wade. I blinked. So, my college turned into a neon sign and a white couch? Dad looked up for the first time. You can take out loans, or start working at the warehouse. Get experience. School ain't the only way up, Mom added. You'll figure it out like a man. Courtney, without a drop of shame, leaned over the table and said, Hey, if you've got anything to spot me this week, I need $400 for a bulk product order. Big margin, easy flip, I laughed. Couldn't stop it. Not the kind of laugh that means something's funny. My hands were shaking, and I remember the fork on the counter rattling when I dropped it. That night I sat in my car at the gas station on Franklin and stared at the pump like it owed me answers. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just called Gerald. He picked up on the second ring. Where are you? Franklin and Garrison. Gas station. Stay there. 20 minutes later, his old flatbed pulled in next to me, headlights dull and one blinker dead. He got out, quiet as always, wearing the same flannel I'd seen him in since I was 10. No judgment, no lecture. Just opened the passenger door and nodded. We didn't talk much on the ride. He didn't need to ask what happened. He already knew the kind of people I was raised by. Back at his place, he made coffee and set it down in front of me with a sleeve of saltines. Then he sat across from me, elbows on the table, and said, Troy would have been college age right about now. I looked up, and that hit harder than anything I'd heard all night. I had money saved, he said. Wasn't much, but enough to get him started. I never touched it. Still haven't. You can use it. Not free. I'm not building bad habits. But you pay it back when you can. No interest, no guilt, no drowning, I tried to argue. But he cut me off. Don't talk yourself out of help just because your folks made it poison. So that was it. I enrolled. Nights at UNC Charlotte, mornings stocking, unloading, delivering for Gerald's warehouse. I slept on his pull-out couch for 16 months and learned how to live cheap without whining. I packed lunch, drank tap water, took buses when the truck broke down. I'd do deliveries with Gerald at 6 in the morning, then sit in class at 5:30 at night with a thermos of reheated coffee and a notebook full of pricing sheets. I didn't party, didn't date. I just worked and studied until everything blurred into one long loop of tired eyes and tight budgets. Eventually, I landed a junior analyst role at the credit union. Pay was nothing special, barely more than we made moving appliances. But it had potential. A ladder. I climbed one rung at a time. 2 years later, I handed Gerald a cashier's check with the full amount he floated me, plus interest. I'd saved every extra dollar from raises, gigs, and tax returns. It took sacrifice, took saying no to a lot. He looked at the check, then at me. This is too much. I shrugged. You said no free rides. He slid it back. Put half away. You earned the rest. I'm not your bank. But I'm not letting you go broke trying to pay me fancy either. So I did what he said. Deposited half, stashed the other. From that point on, Sundays were for Gerald. I'd stop by, bring coffee, help patch something in the warehouse, or just sit out back, watching trucks roll by. But I didn't call home. Didn't visit. Not after that night in the kitchen. The silence didn't come from a single fight. It came from days piling up, one after another, until it built a wall you couldn't see over. At some point, it just became normal. And I wasn't angry every day, not loud angry. But every time I passed a salon or saw a neon open sign in a window, something in me lit up and burned quietly. I kept pushing forward. That's the thing about momentum. Once you've got it, you don't look back unless someone gives you a reason to. I hadn't gotten that reason yet. But Christmas was coming. I parked across the street like I needed one last buffer zone between me and the house. The same rancher with the faded brown siding, the same drooping gutters that no one had fixed since 2008. The boxwoods were taller now, wild and pushing into the walkway like they were trying to keep people out. I sat with the engine running until the fuel light blinked on. The bag in the passenger seat wasn't heavy. A flannel shirt for Dad, a scarf for Mom, and toys for Maya and Logan. Just building blocks and a robot kit with glowing eyes. I didn't want anything big. Didn't want the gifts to scream. I just didn't want to show up empty-handed. Gerald's truck was already in the driveway, angled like he always parked. Half in the grass, half on the concrete. He met me before I reached the steps, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes steady. "You sure?" he asked. I nodded, even though I wasn't. He gave me a look that said, "Breathe," then clapped me once on the shoulder and walked in first. The front door was already cracked open. I followed him in. Mom was the first one I saw. She froze with a dish towel in her hands, mouth open like she was about to speak but hadn't decided what words were safe. Then she forced a smile and crossed the room too fast, arms out. "Wade, look at you. You're thinner than last time," she said, wrapping me in a hug I didn't return right away. Dad stood up from the recliner like someone had pressed pause on him 2 years ago and just hit play again. "Well, hey, son," he muttered. Courtney didn't get up. She stayed planted on the couch with Maya next to her and Logan playing on the floor. "Hey, stranger," she said. I dropped the gift bag by the side table. "Hey." We did the usual small talk. Weather, Panthers, traffic on I-85. I mentioned the light rail extension. Dad grunted. Mom commented on my shirt, said it made me look like a banker. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears the whole time. Dinner prep dragged on. Courtney scrolled her phone while helping with rolls. Dad kept checking the news. Gerald leaned against the counter and threw out little one-liners to keep it moving. I didn't say much. I couldn't. After about an hour, Mom called me to the back steps. The air outside slapped my face, cold, sharp, and honest in a way nothing inside that house had been. She pulled her cardigan tighter and looked like she'd rehearsed something. "We were wrong back then," she said quietly. "I've replayed it 1,000 times. How we handled the money, how we treated you. It was cruel, and we're ashamed." I looked at her hands. They were shaking. Her nail polish was chipped, and the veins stood out more than I remembered. "You should be," I said. Her eyes welled up, but she didn't turn away. "I know. I'm not asking for a pass. Just, I'm sorry." I didn't launch into a list. Didn't start reading off all the things they did wrong. Part of me wanted to, but the words got caught behind something heavier. "I'll need time," I said instead. She nodded like she'd been expecting that. "You take all the time you need. We'll be here." We stood there for a minute more. No hug, no dramatic breakdown. Just cold air and breath clouds and the sound of Maya laughing inside. Dinner was quieter than I expected. Ham, green beans, mac and cheese, the usual. Gerald sat next to Dad and carried the conversation like a man running interference. He asked about old trucking routes, about some guy they both knew who got caught running double logs. Dad lit up a little. Courtney made a show of carving the ham perfectly, while Maya showed me a picture she drew. A unicorn driving a school bus. "It has glitter on the tires," she said, shoving it in my face with a proud little grin. Logan was more hands-on. He walked over without a word and shoved a toy truck into my lap. "Vroom it," he said, like we'd always done this. I did. I made the sounds, rolled it across the table, let him crash it into his juice box. He howled with laughter like I was the funniest person alive. Courtney snapped a picture for her feed. "Look who finally showed up," she said, half joking. I didn't answer. After dessert, a pie Mom bought from the Food Lion bakery and tried to pass off as homemade, Gerald stretched and stood. "I'll help Wade out to the truck," he said, even though I hadn't brought much. Outside, the air felt even colder. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding since I crossed their threshold. He glanced at me. That went better than I thought. Low bar, I said. He smirked. Still counts. I didn't drive off angry. I didn't feel healed either. It was something in the middle, like pressing gauze to a wound that had already scabbed over. Back in Charlotte, I unpacked the gifts I hadn't given. Backup sets in case the originals got weird reactions. They didn't. The kids had been sweet. It wasn't forgiveness. Not even close. But it was something. A ceasefire with pie. That first Sunday in January, I pulled up to the house around 10 a.m. Cold wind had stripped most of the trees bare, and the grass looked patchy like it gave up trying. The front steps still had that one loose brick that rocked when you stepped on it, just enough to make you hesitate. Inside, the place smelled like old air and reheated biscuits. Mom had Sunday music playing, some soft jazz station off the cable box. Dad was watching a weather report, boots off, legs stretched out like he hadn't moved since the sun came up. We didn't say much at first. I brought some groceries, basics, coffee, eggs, bread. I didn't ask if they needed them. I just put them in the fridge and kept moving. That day we talked about nothing that mattered. Panthers draft picks, a pothole on Hudson Boulevard, how Food Lion jacked up the price on bacon again. The second Sunday I helped Dad patch a leak under the bathroom sink. He handed me the wrench like it weighed more than it used to. Been meaning to get to this, he mumbled. Just gets harder to crawl under there, you know. I didn't answer. I just twisted the valve, felt the cold water shoot down my arm, and passed him a towel. When we got it sealed up, he sat on the floor with his knees bent, breathing heavier than the job called for. You always did figure things out, he said without looking at me. I didn't know what to do with that, so I said, it's just plumbing. Still, appreciate it. I nodded and left it at that. We weren't ready for anything deeper. Courtney started showing up on her own terms. One Tuesday, she texted around noon. At your building. Coffee? I came down, and she was waiting in the lobby with 2 cups from the place around the corner. She handed me one like we'd been doing it every week for years. I was over this way dropping off supplies, she said. Figured I'd swing by. I let her talk. She filled the silence like she was auditioning for a vlog. Salon stories, client gossip, something about a girl who cried after a toner mishap. Business is killing, though, she said, sipping her coffee like she'd earned it. Just needs a push to hit the next tier. That push came up 2 days later in a text. Quick cue. Any chance you could float $2,800 for a dryer chair upgrade? It'll double our volume. I swear I didn't respond right away. I stared at the number, then opened my spreadsheet. My budget was tight, but not strangled. I could do it. So I called her. I'll do it under one condition. I write up an agreement. 12 months, 0 interest. You sign it, I don't chase you. If you stop paying, I stop caring. She laughed. You make it sound like I'm buying a car. No, I said. I'm giving you a shot not to mess it up. She signed the paper in my building lobby and did a boomerang of the new corner setup that same night. Posted it with, big moves. Thank you to those who believe in me, no tag. No mention. I didn't care. Not yet. The third Sunday in January, the dishwasher coughed and gave up. I didn't even wait to be asked. I pulled it out, checked the line, and found a cracked valve and a rusted seal. Courtney sat on the counter with a diet soda while I worked. You always this handy? She asked. Not always. Just got tired of broken stuff staying broken. She watched me for a minute like she was seeing something new. Then she said, You and Gerald. You're tight, huh? Yeah. He showed up when it counted. She didn't respond to that. Just nodded and watched the sink drip. By February, the water heater died. I got the call from Mom that morning. There's no hot water. I think it finally gave out. It's been sputtering for a while. I called a guy Gerald knew. Local, fair, quick. He swapped it out for $11.70. I paid by card and left the receipt on the kitchen table. Mom looked like she wanted to argue. "We'll get you back." "I know," I said. I didn't ask when. Didn't need to. Sunday visits got easier after that. We kept the conversations safe. Sports, weather, light gossip. Nothing sharp. I started taking Maya and Logan to a park behind their preschool. Just a small place with one slide and a crooked jungle gym. But they loved it. Logan brought trucks. Maya collected leaves like they were diamonds. They never asked for anything. They didn't care about what happened 10 years ago or what never got paid back. They just wanted someone to push them on the swings and listen to them talk about dinosaurs and glitter slime. I could do that. Work was steady. We had a fraud model in testing that I was proud of, something I'd been building with a small team since October. The pipeline was tight, the risk model cleaner than most we'd rolled out in years. I kept my head down, punched numbers, hit deadlines. My budget stayed firm. Every dollar had a job. At night, I sat in my apartment and looked at the calendar. March was coming. Lease renewal was due in 4 months. I started looking at condos, just looking. Gerald said he knew someone who could help when I was ready. Still, something was shifting. I felt it on those Sunday drives. Like maybe the hole wasn't all the way patched, but at least the bleeding had stopped. For the first time in years, Gastonia didn't feel like a weight. It felt like something I could visit without losing ground. I wasn't calling it home again, not yet, but I wasn't keeping it locked behind me anymore either. By the second week of March, the daffodils were pushing up through cracks in the sidewalk, and my phone rang with a number I recognized from my lease paperwork. It was my landlords, Tom and Janine, the older couple who'd owned the building since forever. Good people. Always fixed stuff quick. Gave me Christmas cookies every year. Never raised rent without warning. Janine was the one who spoke. "Wade, honey, we need to give you a heads up. Our granddaughter's finishing at Wilmington, and she just landed a job uptown. We promised her the unit when she graduated," Tom added. "We're giving you 4 months. We'll help however we can with references." They thanked me for being the ideal tenant, like that would soften the blow. Honestly, I couldn't even be mad. They gave me more time than most landlords ever would. I hung up and stared at the corner of the apartment where my desk sat, wedged between a window and a heater that clicked in winter. 4 months. That was the countdown. I pulled up my savings sheet. Even after everything I'd spent helping out, the water heater, Courtney's chair, groceries here and there, I'd stuck to the plan. My down payment number was real. That night I mentioned it to Gerald. "You ready?" he asked. "Have to be. Clock's ticking." He nodded like he already knew what came next. Sherry, realtor. She used to date my buddy Ruben. Smart. No show pony stuff. I'll send you her info. The next morning, she texted me before 8. "Gerald says you're real. Let's find the spot." In 3 weeks, we saw a dozen places. A townhouse in Noda that had nice light but smelled like someone was hiding cat pee under floorboards. A studio near a brewery where the whole loft reeked of grain and sour hops. A shiny unit in Dilworth that looked good on the listing but was wedged behind a dumpster lot. And then we hit this corner unit, just 2 blocks from my office. Big windows, clean kitchen. Light poured in like it had something to say. The second I walked in, I felt it. That inner click, when something fits, and you don't even need to run the math to know you're home. Sherry watched me take it in and said, "I won't even talk you into this one. It already landed, I didn't tell my family. Not a word. I wanted to do it quietly. No build-up, no announcements. Just hand them a set of guest towels one day and say, 'Here's my place.' That felt better than any speech. Around the same time, Courtney started hinting at a big summer thing. She caught me one Sunday outside Mom's house, kids jumping in leaves by the sidewalk. 'I've been looking at Disney stuff,' she said casually. 'Maya keeps asking about princesses. Logan watches Jurassic Park like it's the Bible.' I raised an eyebrow. 'That stuff's not cheap.' 'I know,' she said, 'but it's not like we need a mansion. Just something special. A once-in-a-lifetime trip. She looked at me like I was supposed to fill in the blank. I went home and started running numbers, flights, hotel, combo tickets, Disney and Universal. Nothing too wild, but not bottom barrel either. I found a June week with a decent package, refundable until 10 days out. Airfare too. I pulled the trigger and dropped a $36.50 deposit. Just like that, we had something on the books. I texted Courtney, "Pencil the week in June. Might be Disney/Universal if my numbers hold. Don't tell the kids yet." It's not a promise. I still plan to surprise the kids at Easter. Maybe hide the tickets in plastic eggs. Everything looked clean, manageable, condo savings intact, budget tight but not bleeding. And then the end of March hit. We got pulled into a surprise compliance meeting on a Thursday. My manager, Neil, looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "Third-party data flagged by audit," he said. "Vendor compliance gaps. The new risk model is on hold until further notice." Someone asked about quarterly bonuses. He didn't flinch. "Frozen until quarter 4. Not gone. But delayed." I wasn't fired. I wasn't broke. But that bonus was supposed to be my cushion. Furniture, closing costs, a bit of breathing room after the down payment. I kept my face neutral, nodded like I wasn't sweating through my undershirt. That night I went home, opened my spreadsheet, and sliced out every line that wasn't essential. No new couch. No summer Fridays. No more unplanned handouts. I told Gerald about it over coffee on Saturday. He took one sip and said, "Companies love calling a stall prudence when they mean they're scared." I smirked. "Still a job." "Yeah, and a plan's still a plan. You just gotta run it tight." The next day, I skipped Sunday dinner, texted Mom, and said I had some work issues. Not a lie. Between underwriting reviews, inspection scheduling, and contract paperwork, I was drowning in things that needed signatures. The truth was, I didn't want to walk in that house and hear, "Must be nice having a good job." Not when I was carrying this whole plan in my chest like it might crack if someone poked it too hard. Sherry had the offer drafted. We were scheduling inspection and waiting on bank finalization. I had my name on paper, and it felt solid in a way I hadn't felt in years. Even without the bonus, I could land this. No extras, no fanfare, just the key in the door, the clean walls, and a place I owned. I wasn't telling anyone yet, not until the ink dried. Not until I knew the ground under me wasn't about to move again. But the condo wasn't the only thing riding on this plan. That Disney trip sat out there too, a glowing date on the calendar, staring at me like a question I hadn't answered yet. I'd bought the magic. Now I had to figure out if I could afford to deliver it. The walls of Gerald's office always smelled like paper and old coffee. He had one window with the blind halfway stuck and a stack of shipping forms leaning against a filing cabinet that never fully closed. That afternoon when I walked in, the blinds were drawn and the door was shut tight. He barely looked up. "Sit," he said. He wasn't fidgeting, but he had that same locked jaw I'd seen the day he slid me the envelope with Troy's savings. Whatever this was, it wasn't small. "Sherry heard something," he said finally. "Ace Hardware. 2 women in the caulking aisle. Said they were friends of Diane's from book club." I sat back. "Okay." They were running their mouths, loud enough for her to catch it. Talking about you like you were a damn vending machine I didn't speak. He didn't wait. One said, "Wade's finally useful with that nerd job." The other called you the family ATM. Not a joke, not even shy about it. The words didn't land all at once. I nodded, once, but my hands tensed against the arms of the chair. "Sherry didn't want to tell you. Said it wasn't her place to stir stuff." I disagreed. I stared at the wall behind him. Some old flyer about warehouse safety half peeled off the corkboard. Did she give details? She texted me quotes and timestamps. I made her screenshot it. I told her if this gets said out loud, Wade deserves to know what's being said behind his back. He slid his phone across the desk. I picked it up. There they were, the exact words. "He's like our quiet little investor. He pays because it makes him feel useful. That boy's finally putting that math brain to work." The time readout said 3:11 p.m. I sat there with the phone still in my hand when it buzzed again. New message. This one from Jeff Miller, a guy I knew from high school. Always ran with the loudmouth crew. Worked HVAC now, I think. Dude, don't shoot the messenger, but you gotta hear this. He sent a video. I clicked it. It was taken at a bar. Music low, birthday banner in the background. A few women were huddled near a high-top table. I saw Courtney's side profile, clear as day. She was laughing, drink in hand. Then came the words, straight from her mouth, plain and sharp. I'll pay him when I feel like it. What's he gonna do? Repo the chair? Her friends laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. One clapped. One spilled her drink and didn't even care. My name didn't need to be mentioned. Everyone knew who he was. There was no doubt. I paused the clip and just stared at the still frame. Courtney's smirk frozen, lit by neon bar light. I handed Gerald the phone back. My ears were ringing. You good? He asked. I need to be sure before I do anything, I said. He nodded once, slow. Be sure. But don't be slow. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed with my bank app open, scrolling through the auto transfer I'd set up in February, $1,200, landing like clockwork every month into my parents' joint checking. I hadn't told them I set it up. I just did it after the water heater broke. Mom said, "We'll get you back." I hadn't asked for a timeline. Now I stared at that money like it belonged to a different version of me, the version who thought being steady meant being appreciated. I sat up, turned on the lamp, and pulled out the loan agreement Courtney signed, the one I drafted like a fool thinking business and blood could play nice. Her name, my terms, her signature. No payments made yet, not a single one. My chest felt heavy, but not in a panicked way. It was the weight of clarity. All those little moments added up. Courtney posting her new salon corner like she built it solo. Mom ducking her eyes when I brought groceries. Dad going quiet when I mentioned a rent increase. I wasn't just the helper anymore. I was the plan. So I made one of my own. Not a trap, not revenge, just a clean test. One I could live with, even if it didn't go the way I wanted. I pulled out a notepad and started scribbling. Step 1, pause the transfer. Step 2, drive down there in person with 2 suitcases. Ask to stay a while, just a few months until things evened out. Step 3, watch. If they welcomed me in, fine. If they didn't, well, then I'd know. No excuses. No, you misunderstood, or they didn't mean it that way. I'd know for real what I was to them, with the ATM turned off. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I just worked through every version of the conversation in my head. Mom's likely reaction. Dad's. Courtney's. Maya and Logan probably wouldn't even understand. That part made my chest tighten. The next morning, I scheduled the condo inspection. Sherry called to confirm, upbeat as ever. I didn't tell her anything. I didn't tell Gerald either. Not yet. I wanted to see it play out raw. No filters, no coaching. Just them, me, and the missing 1,200. I went to work that day like normal. Answered emails, ran data checks, sat in on a compliance call about vendor cleanup. But all I could hear was Courtney's voice echoing in my head. I'll pay him when I feel like it. It wasn't even the money. It was the laugh after. The way they all joined in, like I was some joke with a credit limit. People say family takes care of each other, but that's not what happened here. I took care of them, quietly, without strings, and in return I got mocked at bars by my own blood. So yeah, I needed to be sure, but I was already 90% there. 2 Saturdays later, I loaded 2 suitcases into the back of my truck before sunrise. My desk, my clothes, the rest of it, all boxed and locked up in Gerald's garage like a clean reset. The inspection had passed with just a few minor notes. Sherry said we were 2 weeks out from closing if everything stayed tight. The drive to Gastonia felt longer than usual. I didn't listen to music. Didn't need it. I rehearsed the same lines in my head, over and over, like a script I had to get right. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sun was up and the street was already half full with parked cars. I rang the bell with one hand and kept the other in my jacket pocket, forcing it to stay still. Mom opened the door. Her smile lasted about half a second before she saw the suitcases. "What's going on?" she asked, one hand still holding the edge of the door like she wasn't sure if she should open it the rest of the way. I kept my voice steady. "The project at work's on hold. Bonuses are frozen. Rent's getting tight, and I need a place to land for a few months. Just until things level out." There was a pause. Not long, but sharp. She looked down at the bags, then back up at me like she was solving an equation in her head. "So," she said slowly, "no more of the 1200 for a while?" Right there, the whole game collapsed. I felt something slide out of me, something cold and final. "Not till I'm steady again," I said. Another beat, then footsteps behind her. Courtney's voice came from the hallway like she'd been waiting. "Wait. What about the June trip? You told me to hold that week." "I told the kids. Maya's been telling everyone at preschool. She thinks you're flying with us." I looked past Mom, saw Maya peeking from the corner of the living room, one of her plastic tiaras lopsided on her head. Logan sat on the couch, legs swinging off the side, completely still. "I can't swing it right now," I said. My throat felt tight. Silence, and then the lid came off. Mom dropped the towel she was holding. "So you plan something big, get everyone's hopes up, and then just cancel it because you hit a little bump?" Dad's voice followed from behind the TV. "I knew this would happen." I said it. Didn't I say it, Diane? Courtney stepped forward, arms crossed, face hard. "This is what I mean. You come in all generous, but the second it's not convenient, you pull the plug. What kind of man does that to kids?" I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself. I let them say every word they'd been holding back, every excuse, every accusation dressed up like disappointment. When Courtney reached down, grabbed the suitcases, and dragged them toward the porch, I just stepped back. "We're not a flop house," she snapped. "You can't just show up like it's some extended vacation." Logan looked at me and blinked slow, confused, like he was still trying to figure out if this was a joke or a game he didn't understand. Maya stepped back behind the door frame, crown slipping. I stepped onto the porch. The light felt too bright for what was happening. Neighbors across the street were peeking through blinds, pretending not to look. I didn't say another word. I just picked up the suitcases, walked down the steps, and opened the truck door with one hand. Inside, I sat in the driver's seat and stared at my hands on the wheel. They looked like someone else's, stiff, foreign. I pulled out my phone, opened the travel app, found the Disney/Universal reservation, tap one button. Cancel trip? Confirm refund? Yes. The screen refreshed. Deposit refunded. I watched the confirmation message flash across the display and then disappear. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel regret. I just felt done. I put the truck in reverse, pulled out of the driveway, and didn't look in the rearview mirror. Gerald was outside his warehouse when I pulled in. He didn't say anything when he saw the bags in the bed of the truck. "Guest room's already got clean sheets," he said. "Put your stuff down. I'll heat up the chili from Thursday." I followed him inside, stomach tight, heart flatlined. After dinner, I sat in the dark of the guest room with the door cracked, scrolling my budget again. Still solid, still on track. Condo closing in less than 2 weeks. But everything else had shifted. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about knowing, without doubt, what I meant to the people who shared my blood. And I knew now. No dramatics. No fights. No broken furniture. They made it clear in 5 minutes. When the money stopped, so did the welcome. I heard Gerald in the kitchen, humming something low while he washed out a mug. I stayed quiet, just listening. That silence felt like armor. I was done waiting for anything from them. Next steps were mine now. 12 days at Gerald's was enough to remember what calm felt like. We didn't talk about the porch. We didn't talk about the canceled trip or the bags I'd carried back out. He gave me space, fed me chili, handed me a cold beer when I looked like I needed one, and said nothing unless I started the sentence. In that time, everything fell into place. Inspection cleared. Just a bad washer hookup and some cosmetic cracks near the baseboards. Appraisal came in strong. Sherry called me 2 days before closing and said, "If your signature hand's ready, Thursday's your day." I signed at 9:30 a.m. Sharp. Sat in a stale office with a banker who looked like he hated his tie, and flipped through a stack of paperwork so thick my thumb started to cramp halfway through. But when the last page was done, and they handed me a little envelope with one key inside, it didn't feel like paper anymore. It felt like clean ground. Gerald helped me move that afternoon. The elevator was down, so we took the stairs like it was a challenge. 1 mattress, 1 table, and 3 boxes. All I had left of the last decade. On the 4th trip, we stopped on the landing, both of us out of breath. He looked at me and grinned. "You sure you don't want to just live minimalist forever?" he asked. "I already was," I said, laughing for the first time in weeks. "Now I just have a better ceiling." That night, I sat on the living room floor with a cheap pizza and the corner lamp I'd bought from a thrift shop back in college. I didn't even have curtains up yet, just the bare windows framing the uptown skyline. I took a photo, posted it with one line. First night. Locked a fair mortgage rate, just sweat and a clean start. Didn't tag anyone, didn't say anything dramatic. I just let it sit. Under 2 hours later, my phone rang. Mom's number. I stared at it a second before I picked up. She didn't start with hello. She didn't ask how I was. Her tone was syrupy, but too tight. "So, how did you buy a condo if you're broke?" I leaned back against the wall and closed my eyes. I wasn't broke. "I was checking if you wanted me or my money." She went quiet. I heard the sound of her exhaling hard through her nose. Then she tried again, softer this time. "We didn't mean to push you away." Things just got tense. "But we can put this behind us, baby." "No," I said. "You threw my bags out over a pause, not a failure." That cracked the line open. Dad jumped in next. I didn't even know he was on speaker. His voice cut through fast. "You're blowing this out of proportion. You manipulated the whole situation." Then Courtney, loud and offended. "You planned this. You set us up. Who even does that to family?" I stayed calm, flat. "Weekly trips are done. The 1200's done. Pay your own bills. And don't call me an ATM and expect the PIN." I hit the red button and blocked the number before they could spit more noise. I sat there with the phone still in my hand, staring out the window like the city owed me silence. And for a second, it gave it. 2 days later, my building's front desk called me at noon. Security line. "Mr. Carson, your family is here. They say it's urgent." I didn't flinch. "They're not on my list." No guest pass, no entry. "Yes, sir." I hung up, then walked downstairs. I didn't step outside. I stood just behind the glass wall near the mailboxes, where they couldn't see me clearly unless they squinted. They were all there. Mom with a folder in her hand, probably filled with guilt letters. Courtney pacing back and forth in her platform sneakers, arms flying. Dad stood stiff with his hands in his pockets, eyes down, like someone waiting for a train that was already late. Security didn't budge, just kept a polite but solid barrier between them and the building entrance. I watched Mom talk with her hands like she was trying to summon sympathy. Courtney kept pointing up like I was a prisoner upstairs and someone should drag me out. Dad didn't speak at all, just looked tired. 15 minutes passed. No yelling, no fists, no performance. Eventually, they walked back to the car. Courtney went first, stomping. Mom looked back once. Dad didn't look at all. They pulled away, and I didn't move until their taillights were gone. Then I turned, walked to my door, and locked it behind me. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel vengeful. I just felt the weight shift off my back, like carrying a duffel you forgot to drop. That silence, that stillness, it didn't mean I won. It meant I finally stopped losing. The next week, Gerald showed up at my place around lunchtime. No warning, just a knock and the smell of Cuban sandwiches before I even opened the door. He had a brown folder tucked under one arm and grease on his sleeve like he'd stopped mid-shift. "You eat yet?" he asked, stepping in. "Nope." "Good. Sit." I got something we ate on the balcony, the city stretching out in front of us like a reward. He handed me the folder halfway through the sandwich. Inside were printed spreadsheets, a list of active routes, fuel reports, equipment expenses, and a short contract. "Warehouse is growing," he said between bites. "We landed a few more medical supply clients. I want you in for real." I flipped through the folder, already spotting ways to shave waste. "You want me running numbers? Routing, controls, some ops design. Not full-time, just brains and a little elbow grease. And a slice." He pointed to a note halfway down the page. It was a fair offer. A small equity share in the business, in exchange for a cash buy-in and a part-time operations role. Nothing flashy, just solid. I leaned back in the chair, still chewing. "You're serious?" I asked. Gerald looked at me like he did when I first asked about Troy's college money. "You've been part of this since you were 18. "Time to stop pretending you're not." I didn't answer right away. I thought about all the years I'd spent chasing stability with no roadmap. All the noise in my head from people who said I wasn't enough. Not smart enough. Not tough enough. Not useful enough. And then I thought about the man across from me, the one who never asked for a parade after he gave me everything. I took a chunk of the savings I'd labeled family emergencies and wired it into the warehouse account by the next morning. The rest I saved for something else I'd been chewing on for a while. 2 weeks later, I sat down with a lawyer Gerald recommended. Old guy with thick glasses, a blunt voice, and no interest in small talk. I told him what I wanted. He didn't flinch. We set up 2 529 college savings plans, one for Maya, one for Logan, both owned by a revocable trust with me as trustee and Gerald as successor. No parental access, no early withdrawals. Beneficiaries locked unless a court ordered otherwise. Automatic quarterly contributions, moderate risk portfolios, long runway. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Courtney. I told Gerald and my lawyer. That was it. Morally, it sat right. The kids didn't fail me. Adults did. A week after everything was filed, Sherry texted me a photo she took while driving past my mom's house. The salon next door had a space for lease sign in the window. Courtney's place had a crooked flash sale poster taped up, half peeling off the glass. I stared at the photo for a few seconds, then closed the message. Not my business anymore. Jeff, the guy who'd sent me the clip of Courtney at the bar, texted again that weekend. "Didn't realize it was that deep," he wrote. "The ATM thing, that was messed up." I laughed, and I shouldn't have. "My bad," I wrote back. "We're good," then muted the thread. No beef, but no more space for noise either. At work, things settled. The risk model that got frozen back in March restarted in June with new vendors. Compliance signed off and bonuses went back on the table. I didn't celebrate. I didn't count it until the deposit hit my account. Every Saturday, Gerald and I met at the warehouse. We restructured runs, trimmed deadhead miles, tightened delivery windows. We built a better tracking system with basic software and muscle memory. By the end of the month, we landed a contract delivering branch supplies to 3 credit union offices, the same network I worked for. Full circle, clean, small, solid. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. Months later, my mornings started the same way. Coffee on the balcony while the city rubbed its eyes. Cool air, the low hum of early trains. My boots sat by the door, scuffed from warehouse Saturdays, not office floors. I walked to work most days now. No traffic, no radio, No noise except the kind I chose. My phone was quiet. I kept the blocks on. No more buzzes about, "Can you just send a little extra till Friday?" No more guilt-wrapped requests dressed up like duty. The silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. It gave me space to hear my own thoughts again. Every quarter, the 529 contributions posted like clockwork. Clean withdrawals from the trust account, clean confirmations. I got the statements in the mail, filed them in a folder with no name on it. I wasn't buying forgiveness. I was buying 2 kids a chance I nearly missed. They didn't know. They didn't need to. That was the point. Sundays, Gerald came by. We'd sit at my counter with barbecue and sweet tea. He'd talk about the shop, or Troy, or the neighbor who still owed him a crescent wrench. Sometimes I talked, sometimes I didn't. He never pushed. One night I said, "You ever think you'd still be doing this at your age?" He shrugged. "I never planned to stop working. I just wanted to work beside someone who didn't quit when it got hard." That landed. I wasn't looking for fireworks anymore. People love that idea, that revenge has to be loud and explosive. But I didn't need to burn bridges. I just needed to stop driving across them. Stopping the free ride, that was enough. Canceling the magic ATM card, that was closure. Making sure the next generation had a clean shot, one not tied up in adult pride or family politics, that was the win. The $2,800 Courtney owed, if she ever pays it back, there's a lockbox nailed to my porch rail. Drop it in. If not, I still sleep fine. She once told people she'd pay when she felt like it. That sentence used to spin in my chest like a rusty blade. Now it doesn't. Now it's just noise I turned down. I kept one framed photo on a floating shelf. Me and Gerald standing in front of his old warehouse, the box truck we fixed up behind us, both of us covered in dust and sweat. That's the only family picture I needed. June rolled by. The Disney trip came and went. No tears, no phone calls, no preschool meltdowns. That week, I painted my hallway and helped Gerald reorganize Bay 3. We found an old clipboard with route sheets from before I graduated. He handed it to me and said, "Proof you didn't just show up yesterday." Not glamorous, satisfying. Sometimes when I'm walking home from work or standing in line at the bank, I picture Maya and Logan 10 years from now, opening acceptance letters, clicking into tuition portals, maybe crying over the cost, and then finding out someone took care of the hard part. They won't know it was me. That's okay. I didn't do it to be remembered. I did it to end the cycle. Looking back, I should have known a long time ago who would show up when things got bad. Should have known who had hands and who only had palms out. Now I do. I've got a mortgage with my name on it, a share in something I helped build, and a phone that doesn't ring with guilt. That's not flashy, but it's mine. If your family treated you like an ATM, would you cut them off? Drop a comment, even just good story or your take. If you'd like to support the channel, tap Super Thanks. It's optional, but really helps. And please like and subscribe. Huge for us, easy for you.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.